Hello there, good afternoon. This is Starr Midday News on Star 103.5 FM with me, Tutuwaa Danso. You're welcome. Coming up in this broadcast, government describes as reckless comments by North Tongue MP Samuel Tutuwaa Danso condoning latest riots in Kenya, and that saw 22 people die.
Nature to happen in Nairobi, Kenya, and to see that a member of parliament would state that Ghana is not too far away from it is very apologetic. And it's a reckless statement. I do not think that our country has gotten to that stage, and I do not think that our country will get to that stage.
Also in this broadcast, security at the Law Courts complex beefed up ahead of continuation of ambulance case involving Dr. Kasia Wataforsen and Richard Jakpa, following unsanctioned recording of proceedings. We'll be live in court with our reporter. And later, Ghana Plastics Manufacturers Association accused GRA of harassment despite ongoing discussions with Finance Ministry on 5% excise tax, warning of an industry shutdown.
We think this is too much of a harassment, and at least they are aware that we are having some dialogue with the ministry. Of course, they are implementers though, but then we are having some dialogue, and they are also aware that the minister is not available.
There are details of these and other stories coming up shortly. Do stay.
Star News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Star 1035 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Star 103.5 FM. Star News. Informed, in depth, in touch.
Thank you for choosing us. We start off the broadcast with security, and government has described as reckless comments by North Tongue MP Samuel Tutuwaa Danso condoning latest riots in Kenya that saw 22 people die. The legislator, who has been vocal about purported riots in the sale of the snake steak in some 4 hotels, noted in a social media post that President Akufo-Addo refused to stop the sale when he met organized labor. The post further accused President Akufo-Addo of being a chief architect of 4 putrefying state capture. Well, we've been joined in the studios by governance spokesperson on governance and security, Dr. Palgrave Boache-Dankwa. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Tutuwaa, and a very good afternoon to your listeners. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So, persons have been calling for an emulation of what happened in Kenya. How do you react to that?
It's a deep concern, really, because the situation of Kenya is very, very different. And we must commend President Ruto, because you are aware that we are part of the African Union. And President Ruto has had some very good leadership in Kenya. And the East African situation is extremely different, unless, of course, people do not understand. Up next to Kenya, you're finding Angola, and you're finding Sudan, and you're having a lot of these terrorists around. And so if people are calling for an emulation of what happened in Nairobi, Kenya, that sorts 22 people who lost their life, it's unfortunate. I have friends in Kenya that I talk to on a regular basis, and I'm not sure they're even pleased with how demonstrators became irresponsible to the extent that 22 people are dead. And we must set the situations in context. Kenya was trying to introduce some new taxes, and they went on a demonstration, and they had even passed the bill in Parliament, and the president was supposed to assent it into law. But the president, upon the demonstration, said Parliament should have a look at that. So to see that a member of Parliament like the Honorable Tutuwaa Danso calls for an exact thing in Ghana, I don't think it's neither here nor there, which really tells you his intent and purpose for the demonstration that he did. Yes, of course, yesterday the President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo had a long-standing meeting with TUC. And it's unfortunate for Tutuwaa Danso, who was not in the meeting, to state that the president is going ahead with a sale of SNIT. It's important for him to note that Ghana is not selling SNIT. SNIT is floating off 60% shares of their non-performing hotels over the past 14 years. 9 years of that has been non-performing. The question to ask is, who was in leadership over the past 9 years from 2009 till we came into office? It was the NDC. So the NDC has run down these hotels over these years. They have seen to the non-performing performance of these hotels. They have seen to the non-capital investment into these hotels, and Senate has sought to see that this investment of pensioners is used equitably and used very well. And so they are floating off these 60% shares. That should bring a total of about $59 million US. And the highest bidder bidded for $61 million US. Realize as well that there were about 15 transactional advisors, 6 transactional advisors that were cut off from the 15, and then 1 transactional advisor that was chosen, that was Sem Capital. And then there were about 9 different bidders. Yao Ado Development, Spartan Ivies, Luxor, Rock City, and a few others. And all of these people bidded. And who do you think Senate will give the bidding to? Senate will give the bidding to the highest bidder, which is why the President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, upon meeting TUSU, has stated emphatically to Senate that resolve these issues over the next 2 weeks. And I think that is very key, and that's very crucial.
Right. When you say that it is impossible for that to be emulated in Ghana, let's look at the addition of taxes in the country over the past few years. Don't you think that Ghanaians have been silently protesting these additions? Unlike the Kenyans who are very vocal and physical about their protests.
Tutuwaa, I don't think you would go on the streets to be abused. I don't think so. I think that...
I don't think their intent of going on the streets was to be abused.
No, let's put it in context, because you see, the more we drive this conversation, we agitate people. That's what we do. And we are in a very volatile environment. We are in a volatile environment where Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, Mali, all these countries are going through difficult situations within their security environment. Some of them are having terror attacks. Some of them are having displaced government, and so having military juntas. I don't think that we want to enhance this conversation. This conversation must be shot on dead on arrival, because I don't think so. The issues that we have had in this country, government is addressing those issues. There has not even been any new introduction. In the upcoming media review, there's not going to be any new introduction. And every single tax that has been introduced in this country is because government wants to be able to develop the country.
Okay.
And we use the taxes to develop the country. When we launched our performance tracker, we encourage the Ghanaian people to go on it, to be able to see evidentially the infrastructural works that government has done.
Okay, but I mean, I just want to highlight or place emphasis on this. Is government taking a cue from what is happening in Kenya, so in order to address grievances of the citizens?
I need
appropriately.
I need to state this very well, but I'll state it. You see, there is no need for the government of Ghana to take any cue for what happened in Kenya.
Because in terms of addressing grievances of the citizens?
No, but then we address the grievances of citizens. We've set up an RTI law, which anyone who wants information can be able to request for those information. Anyone who has grievances against the government. When they did the demonstration, they submitted a petition to the presidency, received by the deputy chief of staff. The president sought need to invite TUC, which was a meeting that was held yesterday. That's government addressing the needs of the Ghanaian citizens. And so there's no need to take a cue of what happened in Kenya, because our government is seeking to address the very teething challenges of the Ghanaian people. And we have practiced one of the best open democracies in this country.
Right. Thank you so much. Dr. Palgrave Boakye Dankwa is the governance spokesperson on governance and security. But still on these developments, governance analyst Dr. Frederick Ojo believes the youth in Kenya need to be commended for their resilience against misgovernance.
They have, to a large extent. They've shown they are really engaged in their governance processes. And the interesting thing is that social media played a major role in the mobilization and even appreciation of the issues on hand. And I think it is a way forward for the youth in Africa. Although, let us be quick to add that the unfortunate part of the whole saga, that is the death of some of the youth, is something that was so avoidable and unnecessary. And I think African leaders, African governments, the police should learn a lot from some of these things. It is so unnecessary and so uncalled for. But I think the youth of Kenya have done extremely well, and we must respect them for their achievements.
Meanwhile, Kenyan police have put up roadblocks on the streets leading to the presidential palace ahead of calls for further protest. This development is as a result of President Ruto's dramatic U-turn, where he withdrew contentious tax hikes in the 2024 finance bill. Reports suggest that at least 22 people have been killed in the protest that began on Tuesday, and at least 200 people have been wounded. Many Kenyans Many Kenyans have jumped onto social media to express their cynicism over President Ruto's televised address, calling it a PR move. Protesters have been calling for his resignation and have pledged to occupy State House, referring to Kenya's presidential palace. Vincent Owino is a journalist in Kenya.
There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of blasts, tear gas. So, of course, yes, demonstrations are still ongoing today, but we cannot really tell how long it will last, but we are hoping today is the last day of the demonstrations. But somehow the discussion has moved from the rejection of the finance bill to the rejection of the government as a whole now. And now the protesters are demanding not only the withdrawal of the finance bill, wanting the government to vacate office entirely. And of course, as you might have heard right now, the finance bill 2024 was only the trigger to the demonstrations, but there are a lot of issues or a lot of factors that have led us to this point where we are. And now, with this opportunity, the youth want all the matters addressed.
So as it stands now, really, what's the mood?
It's quite difficult to read the mood, really, because the protest has sort of, I would say, in Nairobi, in the capital city, it has reduced in intensity. As you're aware, the government deployed the military in the capital city to try and quell the protests. There's been a lot of fear, and people have not showed up as much as they did on Tuesday or the other week. There are a lot of blasts outside, even as we speak right now. So the military hasn't done anything yet that we have heard of. They're just moving around, but there's a lot of fear, of course. People are a little bit scared, so the turn-up for the demonstration has not been as much as it was last week.
Away from Kenya, Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association is accusing GRA of harassment despite ongoing discussions with Finance Ministry on the implementation of the 5% excise tax, warning of an industry shutdown. The association says the tax is counterproductive and adversely affects the general manufacturing business community and compound the living conditions of the everyday consumer. The association is decrying what it says is harassment by the revenue body, despite its moves for a scrapping of the tax, as a number of manufacturing companies had suspended production and put workers on whole leave due to the high foreign exchange rates, high benchmark values, and very high operating overhead costs. Eboboche is the president of the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association.
GRA is saying that we should get registered, start charging the tax, and we should start filing to them. If we don't, they will come to our premises, do an assessment of what we've done, give us a penalty on top of whatever tax that we have to pay. In default means that we have to get our premises or investment locked up. And we think this is too much of a harassment. And at least they are aware that we are having some dialogue with the ministry. Of course, they are implementers though, but then we are having some dialogue, and they are also aware that the minister is not available. So if you push us to that wall, for us to safeguard our investments, then we have no any other option than to shut down. And if we shut down, the ripple effect, you can't imagine, because every single industry or manufacturing setup in Ghana depends on plastic packaging.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, is backing the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association in its quest to have government withdraw the newly introduced 5% excise tax on all locally manufactured plastic products. Addressing a media briefing in Accra, President of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obing, emphasized that the current economic climate, fraught with numerous challenges, is not conducive to the imposition of additional taxes on businesses.
What is this tax for? Is it for revenue generation, or is it for management of plastic waste? Let's ask this question. We cannot take any further charges or imposition of taxes around this time. And we are all very much aware that businesses are on the verge of collapse. Even around this time of import substitution that government-owned policy is driving industrialization to, is it the time for us to kill the packaging industry? The plastic industry forms the greater part of the packaging industry that our industrialization drive will revolve. Let's think again. we are telling government to defer the implementation. It's as simple as that. The time is not right. Already we pay 10% environmental excise tax. That has generated over 1.97 billion Ghana cedis. What have you done with it? Have you used it for management of waste? Or we are just interested in imposing taxes upon taxes just to kill local industries? This is not fair. And that's the reason why we will support any effort to demonstrate your frustration. But do we have to go on demonstrations before government can listen to reason? Because it's not even in the interest of government itself. Government cannot hate itself when it's trying to drive industrialization and then at the same time seek to kill local industries. But it should not be said that we did not let government know of our intentions. So if government is not listening, the only option is for us to also demonstrate our right to exist in business.
Let's stay on this development further and engage an environmentalist on this development. Gloria Ejay is the Programs Officer for the Ghana Youth Environmental Movement. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, madam.
Thank you very much for having me. Please, a little correction. The name is Gloria Ejay.
Gloria Ejay. Right, well noted. Don't you think the imposition of this 5% tax on plastic products is one of the solutions to addressing the many challenges that plastic or single-use plastic has introduced into the country?
Okay. So first off, I want to address this in this way. So in the past, we've seen the introduction of various taxes by government for certain things, which were not used for those purposes, right? So I think the first question or the first thing we need to consider here is the purpose for the introduction of this tax. So that's one thing I would say we need to consider. Secondly, in our quest to address the issue of plastic pollution, we need to take a very holistic and comprehensive approach to tackling this. Reason being that when you look at products like sachet water, sachet water is an inelastic product. So it basically means something people cannot do away with. Like, this is what we depend on widely here in Ghana. And this comes with plastic. Sachet water uses a lot of plastics, and that's where we package it. And so I think that a mere introduction of a tax will not necessarily discourage the dependency on plastic or plastic packaging. So in government's quest to really address the issue of plastic pollution, then I believe that these taxes that is being imposed should target subsectors of the plastic industry. So I'm talking about people producing, plastics for sachet water, for the bottles, and the like. And that is one thing I want to say. And for this reason, and the rate of pollution going on in the country, specifically caused mainly by single-use plastic, is the reason why Ghana Youth Environmental Movement and many other organizations have joined in to call for a ban on certain types of plastics in Ghana if we really want to address the issue of plastic pollution here in Ghana.
Right, Gloria, if you say that the introduction of the tax will not in any way, help address the plastic issues that we have in the country, as stakeholders, what other solutions are you looking at?
So basically one of the solutions I mentioned here is a ban on certain types of plastic. But to do this, we really need to take a holistic approach. We have to consider the impact of plastic pollution on various sectors and not just the plastic industry or what the plastic producers are saying. But let's look at what happens when it even rains now as a result of the pollution, the rate of pollution going on in our cities. We lose people, lives are lost, properties are lost, and a lot of things are being distracted as a result of the rate of pollution going on here in Ghana. So let's take a holistic approach to this plastic issue, have a comprehensive stakeholder engagement, and be able to weigh these two compared to, let's say, this tax where people may be out of jobs. Already plastic pollution is even getting people out of jobs. The fisher folks are complaining of catching more plastic than fishes, which is very alarming, you know. And so for me, I think that the very important step we need to take is a holistic approach that can help us tackle this issue very well and provide Ghana a roadmap into environmental sustainability as well as economic growth for our generation and the next as well.
Thank you so much. Gloria Jare is the Programs Officer for the Ghana Youth Environmental Movement. Let's head to Parliament now. And the Ministry of Roads and Highways has assured commuters on the Kaswa-Winneba Road measures are being rolled out to deal with the congestion on that stretch. Road users have been complaining about the heavy congestion occasioned by the dualization of the Accra-Cape Coast Road. Now, in response to concerns amplified by the Minority Caucus in Parliament, the ministry has earmarked a number of bypasses to address the situation. Addressing members of the Road and Transport Committee of Parliament during a site visit, Chief Director of the Ministry of Roads and Highways, Dr. Alhaji Abbas Awolu, outlined measures being undertaken by the government to bring convenience to commuters.
The contract is a 36-month contract.
I'm sorry,
it's a 36-month contract. Wow. It's a design and build contract. So the contractor has responsibility for designs, and the Ghana Highway Authority is the supervising implementing agency. The GHA has also appointed some engineers assistant, but GHA has full responsibility for the project.
But those of us who use this road over the weekend.
But yes, Honorable, there's a bypass. I think severally it's been advertised. But when you come to Kaswa at Crispo City and you go on the Opekuma Road, there's a road that brings you back to Big Apple, which is Big Apple is a little bit beyond there. So the contractor actually went and graded and improved the sections. You remember we had some time that this road was.
There's no sign of it.
So there are So maybe we'll get the contractor to prove the sign there. So when you use that road, you completely bypass what is happening here. For the big trucks, they have no other choice than to come here. And you find out that the contractor will have to continuously maintain the service road. If you don't, then we cannot do this. Because you definitely need to excavate deep and then to be able to do the underpass. And then unfortunately when they start pushing the rocks, so they have to blast the rocks, and in blasting the rocks it has to be faced and then controlled. Because you cannot blast everything because there are human beings here. And there are buildings there.
Right next
door. The school is there. So you need to do controlled blasting over the weekends and sometimes early morning. So that's controlled blasting. So you have to do it this week and the following week. And those periods delay.
You're still listening to Starr Midday News. Let's do sports now. And Jones Aji is in the studios with me with the very latest in sports. Jones, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, so the Public Relations Officer of Pando Heart of Lions, who doubles as the PRO of Volta Football Association, has advised coaches in Ghana to see coaching as a serious business and invest in it. He was speaking on the sports chat this morning, and so let's listen to PRO Eric.
I think our coaches need to be doing much more better. I listened to some experienced coaches on the terrain who said, look, coaching is no longer a hobby or is no longer passion. It is now a profession where you must acquire the nurse certificate to be able to actually operate in your profession. Once you are a coach and you are given opportunity to coach a Division 1 team, you should be looking at the possibility of Premier League team calling.
He admonishes them to upgrade themselves in countries around Ghana if getting a license in the country proves to be burdensome.
But I also want to say that the certificate is equivalent across the globe. So if you are holding, let's say, a UEFA license D, if you're sitting there, what? If you go to Togo and go and take a CAF license A, it is CAF license. It is equivalent. The only difference is that it is CAF, it is common, but it is UEFA, depending on the cost element. But on the African continent, if you are still CAF license A, in Benin and are same capital as A in Ghana, it is equivalent. Opportunities are not ripe here for us. Coaches can just step out there, get a certificate, come back here and operate.
All right, so Ghanaian defender Jerome Opoku has completed a permanent move to Istanbul Başakşehir, joining the Turkish club on a 3-year deal from FC Arouca. The defender was on loan at the club last season and was instrumental in their qualification to the UEFA Conference League. All right, that will be all for sports. My name is Jones Aji.
Thank you so much, Jones, for those updates there. Now let's head to the Volta region, where lawyer for John Peter Amewu, Benedict Kofiche, has questioned the capacity of the whole High Court to rule in the matter of a petition challenging the validity of the election of Mr. John Peter Amewu as MP for the Hohoi constituency. Now, during proceedings, the Railway Minister's lawyers argued that the issues the petitioners are seeking the court to consider both on certain enactments provided for in the Constitution, which falls within original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Our Volta regional correspondent, Faisal Abdul Idrisu, has the details. Faisal, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Great. What is the response from the NDC?
Well, the NDC finds these new issues that have been filed by the lawyer for John Peter Amewu as a delayed tactics, because when proceedings started at the point, John Peter Amewu failed to enter appearance until the very later part of the proceedings that he recently entered appearance. And now that he entered appearance belatedly, but that is in the view of the NDC, they are filing these issues. Now, yesterday in court, the lawyer, Kofiche, raised 3 issues, but all these 3 issues border largely on the jurisdiction of the High Court to be able to deal with the matters brought before it. Now, first of the issue was that whether or not the Honorable Court has the power to declare that the enactment of the CI 128 was in violation of Article 47(5) of the 1992 Constitution. And then secondly, whether or not the High Court has the power to declare that the first respondent, that is the Electoral Commission, had no power to place the South communities under the Jasikan district, as was done under CI 119, Article 47, Clause 5 of the 1992 Constitution. Then again, whether or not the court, or whether or not the above issues they have raised can be set down as preliminary issue and determined by the Honorable Court. Lawyer for the petitioners, the Venerable Chatu Chikata, stood and argued that these are issues that were already dealt with and were part of the existing issues that the court had considered in the past, and that these things are nothing new, and also find this move by the lawyer for Mr. Amewu as a way of dragging the court back. He argued that the issue of the exclusion of the South people from the 2020 parliamentary elections is not just a matter of exclusion, but it's a matter of human rights abuse. And of course, if the people were allowed to vote, that there are about 17,000 people in the 13 communities that were excluded. That could have affected the outcome of the election. Not necessarily saying that the NDC would have won the election, but the 17,000 is a significant number that could have actually affected the outcome of the election. But
Faisal Abdul Idris with the latest there. Let's do business now, as financial analyst Dr. Richard Etiahene is challenging the Bank of Ghana to provide evidence to back its claim that the country has seen an increase in remittances flow. Well, a report by the World Bank has revealed that Ghana was the second top recipient of remittances in sub-Saharan Africa in 2023. In 2022, Ghana recorded $4.7 billion in remittances. However, there are concerns that newly licensed MTOs and fintech companies have withheld approximately 18 billion Ghana cedis, that is $3 billion in 2022, and 57 billion Ghana cedis, that is $5 billion in 2023, at the expense of the country's foreign currency reserves. But the Bank of Ghana is refuting this. According to the bank, the country has rather seen an increase in remittance flows. Here are excerpts of the statements from the Bank of Ghana.
Increase in remittance inflows year on year, Bank of Ghana and the World Bank data. The Bank of Ghana does not license MTUs since such companies are based abroad. The bank, however, conducts the due diligence on MTUs who partner local banks and or fintechs to deliver remittances into Ghana as part of the authorization process. Furthermore, All remittance inflows are credited to the nostro account of partner banks of payment service providers. As such, no PSP holds any forex inflows from inward remittances. The partner banks credit the local CD accounts of PSPs for onward transfer to beneficiaries.
Well, reacting to this, banking consultant Dr. Richard Ituahene says the Bank of Ghana must provide data to back its claim. According to him, it is concerning that the country is hemorrhaging huge amounts of money as a result of lapses in the implementation of policies. He spoke on Morning Star.
I don't know where he got the statement from, and I don't know whether he has actually gone through the data to say it has been consistent. So that is my first point of interest. I think they haven't addressed the issue, and I want them to address the issue by going straight to the data, because data and science don't tell a lie. And if I said we have lost it, by my calculation, between that two periods, the two data from World Bank, and we've lost close to 17 billion, 9 billion. So what the governor is saying is just addressing, I think somebody just went to him and told him that we could do this and that. I am saying that, and I want to reiterate what I've said. I'm saying that data has not been properly captured, traced, and captured as done in other jurisdictions. So his question, it doesn't come in at all. So governor should be very bold, and I've issued a statement, and I want him to be very bold and clear.
You just heard Dr. Richard Ituahene, who is a banking consultant. That is how we wrap up this edition of Starr Midday News. Thank you so much for your company. For more news updates, log on to starfm.com.gh. I am Tutuwaa Danso. Have a good afternoon.